Everyone in this building recognizes that we are at a very pivotal point in our nation's history. We're going to mine more Bitcoin. We're going to need more energy. We're going to need to build more server farms. We're going to be able to go out and do, X, Y, and Z to make that happen. This is a new thing. We're at the forefront of something just really cool.
Welcome, everybody. We are here with Kaelan Dorr, Deputy Communications Director for the White House, as well as Brian Morgenstern, Head of Public Policy at Riot Platforms, as well as the former Deputy Communications Director for the White House. Excellent to have both of you gentlemen here with us. Kaelan, please fill us in a little bit on what it's been like behind the scenes during these first 100 days in the White House.
Well, thank you guys for being here. As far as Brian being the previous Deputy Communications Director, I think everyone here can agree the position got a glow up during the 4-year blip.
How dare you? How dare
let's
you?
litigate this on camera. Let's do it. Let's do it. No, this has been an incredible administration to be a part of. I'm very blessed to be here. What we're doing, especially by bringing in what we deem new media outlets like yourself, I think is very integral to the ethos of this administration. I think the tagline for the opening 100 days was essentially "America is back," and I think the subtext to that is obviously we're going to be irreverent in our outreach to folks, and we're going to meet you there. Right? The previous 4 years, it was a lot of, you come to us, we'll take care of you. We're actively seeking people out. I just did, just so everyone can understand the visual at home, we were in one room, and in the next room, there are about 10 or 11 local radio outlets here today. We cycled through about 15 the day before, and we're doing long-form podcast tapings just like this all over campus. So it's pretty cool. And I say all that to say, I was in there. There's a guy from the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, and he had an opportunity to ask, myself, Tom Homan, and and I think maybe Marty McCary, the FDA guy, a bunch of questions. And what that means to these local people, they're stickier users as far as you talk through like a tech brain. They're like stickier consumers of news. They are coming here with intention. They're coming to listen to those guys with intention. And I think that's just something that, the previous occupants of this building, they didn't quite understand. It's something we definitely want to capitalize on. So I cannot express to you guys enough how grateful we are that you would come here and be a part of that effort today, because your constituency, Bitcoiners, at large, are kind of the people who I would say helped win us this election. They're folks who are pragmatic. They're folks who understand the size and scope of federal government should only be what it is when it's appropriate. And I think that it's very important. So thank you guys.
Yeah, I want to pick up on that a little bit. So, I think the president became the president in part because he would talk to other outlets than just your national news that your typical politician would seek out. So can you talk a little bit about the numbers, the different communities you're able to reach with this alternative approach, and the dynamic between your approach and the traditional mainstream media in terms of how the White House is framed, in terms of the coverage, your ability to fight back, things like that?
Yeah, well, what I love is we've definitely done a good job of incorporating influencers into what we're doing here. And what I find especially impactful is that while the Biden administration famously had influencers come here, there was little to no substance with what they were doing, what they were covering. And what they did cover was being fed to them via the White House, right? So they famously had, a transsexual woman show up and flash cameras on the South Lawn, which is wildly inappropriate. I think we found a way to bring folks in, but put them in a position to cover things without us having to influence what they say, right? Everything we've done so far in the first 100 days has been wildly popular. You look at us securing the border. We took actions with your constituencies that are very important, and I think they're all promises made, right? And it's made the job very easy. It's like the president gave us all a honeydew list on day one, and we're just showing up and checking things off the box. It's not been hard to message because this is what the people voted for, right? But it also makes it very easy to garner good coverage and forge good relationships with people who are non-traditional, and that they don't feel like I'm forcing anything on them. They come here, we give them access to things like this, right? They give them access to administration officials, and quite frankly, the message takes care of itself. So it's been a lot of fun, especially juxtaposed with a lot of the heartburn of the first 100 days last time, and obviously everything that happened during this 4-year blip. This has been a very interesting thing. I think what the work that we're doing, especially kind of in my silo, is fundamental to changing the party and the way the federal government and so on and so forth operates and behaves going forward. It's fun.
Just want to pick up on that for a second. What are the biggest differences in your experience? You worked in the first Trump term. You're here back in the second after the 4 years of Biden. What are the biggest differences you've noticed between your experiences?
Yeah, I mean the guardrails are off, right? The gloves are off, for lack of a better phrase, and I think it's because we learned so much the first time. Speaking especially to kind of what we do on the digital front, right? The team I've cultivated a team in an environment that is outside of politics. So I actually went out and we found folks that don't, oh, I've produced 30-second ads for this member of Congress. It's like I feel like I've seen it all before. I've seen it, and if you take a look at kind of what we do. Um, Everyone knows what the end game is. The president's been very clear in where we want to go and how we want to go communicate. And so really it's just about being creative, right? You don't and the beauty of it all is that anybody can do it. Like some of the best content creators or the best people that are pushing kind of the ethos of this president's agenda are people who don't even work here. And it's because anybody can go out and do it if they truly believe in like fulfilling our promises and securing a border, like all these pro-America policies. And so, it's been really fun and freeing because you don't need a ad firm on Madison Avenue to come in and take it to a 5-day workshop in the Utah mountains, to which they're going to bill you for later, right? In order to come up with a good concept or a good way of communicating. It's just you believe in it, you speak what you feel, you go out there and communicate in ways that people are used to. I think I'm quoted some places in saying I'm gonna, or the memes will continue until the crying subsides, right? I mean, like that's how it should be. That's the language with which the American people speak. That's what got us here. Why would being in this building change that at all? Right?
I'd like to ask a follow-up on that. I think one, I commend you for that, but two, I think it's really interesting that we're here. I just spoke with Bo Hines. I'll be speaking with Secretary Lutnick lately. And full disclosure, nobody screened my questions. So there does seem to be a genuine faith in this
Yeah.
idea of authenticity. I'm wondering if even something as simple as that or as basic as that, saying, yeah, we're going to let them come in. We're not screening questions. We want these alternative media outlets to be able to ask whatever they want to ask. Are these the sorts of things that are being stated explicitly, either by yourself or other people in the administration?
Yeah, I mean, this is at the heart of all the outreach we've done. This is not even the first time that we've brought what we deem new media outlets in, or folks that aren't traditional legacy media. They're going to get their bite of the apple, right? There is a sense of almost customer service or white glove service that I think the federal government and the White Houses prior to this one have lost sight of, right? It's incumbent upon us to go and do outreach to these communities, do outreach to the guy in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, or an Amish country, right? Those guys are just as important as uh, you know bargain brand Jim Acosta, Caitlin Collins, for example. Those people reach stickier users, like I mentioned earlier. The message is winning when we have the mandate that we have to go out there and make change wholesale. This is what you get. You get a very transparent administration. I mean, we did a cabinet meeting 2 months ago and we had this wild idea. Everyone was in one place. We sent folks to the cabinet meeting to grab cabinet officials afterwards, and we walked them into the Rose Garden where local media cameras, who almost never get access to these folks, were waiting for them. And everyone did a hit. Took maybe 30 minutes, and that's all. It's the greatest original sin of the Democratic Party. The one thing that they've led everyone in this country to believe is that doing the right thing, doing outreach, is difficult. It is not. It might require a little bit of time, but like it's not a hard thing to do. It's not some sort of impossible task that you can only do if you studied at Harvard for 30 years and have 3 PhDs, right? It's a matter of picking up the phone and being a real human being. And I think that speaks to what the appeal that President Trump has had for so long too. And that's what we try to do with everything.
Mentioned outreach to Amish country as the head of digital. How do you reach Amish country?
No, but
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying, right,
Yeah,
man?
no, of
Like, yeah,
course I
there's
do.
people out in the middle of nowhere. They still want to consume news. They still want to know what's going on, and
Yeah.
it's incumbent upon us to do that. It absolutely baffles me with the advancements in technology that we've seen in the last 10 years that these people don't have a seat at the table. That's gross to me in a way. My objective is I want to reach everyone we possibly can.
Is a Bitcoin ETF the same as owning Bitcoin directly? While Bitcoin ETFs might offer a familiar face, they lack the true ownership and flexibility of directly investing in Bitcoin. With iTrust Capital, you can buy and sell real Bitcoin 24/7 with the tax advantages of an IRA. Real Bitcoin means no middleman, no restricted stock market hours. Choose the path of direct Bitcoin investment with iTrust Capital, because access equals opportunity. Invest in Bitcoin at itrustcapital.com today.
I want to talk about the Bitcoin revolution.
You're surely reaching our audience. The Bitcoin community knows that Bitcoin is a priority for President Trump. I was wondering also if you might be able to give us a little behind the scenes. We were talking a little bit off camera about, what Bitcoin is. I think you facetiously said, it's sort of FU money, right? It's one of the terms that gets thrown around. Is there a lot of other people that understand these dynamics, the rhetoric, that's the culture, the ethos of Bitcoin? Or is it, is there some LARPing, some of that, in reality, how close to the heart of this administration is Bitcoin?
I think we see it as a responsibility of ours to go out there and effectively communicate uh, all of the president's agenda items, and this is definitely a very important one because of the wide-ranging, impact that being pro Bitcoin has on our nation's infrastructure, for example. I think not enough people sit through and do the thought exercise. I'm sure your audience does, but normal people like myself had never sat down and thought through, oh, holy crap, we're gonna mine more Bitcoin, we're gonna need more energy, we're gonna need to build more server farms, we're gonna be able to go out and do X, Y, and Z to make that happen. And I think it's incumbent upon us to go out there and communicate that and not dumb it down, but like distill it for folks who aren't, this is a new thing. I think you guys are kind of at the forefront of something very powerful, very impactful. And I think the president recognizes that this is an opportunity. He's always good at recognizing opportunities, right? When others, are content with banging their head against the wall for decades on the same problems over and over and over, this president understands when it's time to, zig when others would zag. And I think that's part of why you see our administration embracing this. And again, the ethos of this is incredibly conservative at its core. I mean, like I use the phrase "fu money." I mean, nothing is more like libertarian or pro responsible government than that. Or the way that I've actually asked you about this, that the way that the Bitcoin is used for counterterrorism and things like that. It's wildly impactful, and we're at the forefront of something just really cool. Really cool stuff you guys are doing. I envy you guys. You get to dedicate your whole lives to this kind of thing and learning about it. It's
It's
neat.
pretty fun.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty wild sea change. Of course, the president came to the Bitcoin conference last year, addressed some of the very specific policy issues that we had raised with him extremely articulately. My guess is I think it comports with your role here because it reaches a whole new constituency that maybe they didn't vote in the last election, or maybe they weren't voting Republican, or maybe they were voting Libertarian, whatever it might be. When President Trump started speaking about these issues, it opened a lot of eyeballs, and it made, I think, a younger, more diverse, cross-party, cross demographic group a little more receptive to the president's message. Is that kind of how you think about it? Are there other examples that you think about in that way? And kind of, like you said, trying to tie it together with the president's philosophy in problem solving or the economic agenda. I'm giving you a bit of a word salad question, but I'm just trying to piece together the data points of the president talking about it, a whole new world of voters paying attention to it,
Yeah.
and then how that's carried through into the actual governance.
I'll answer your question with a word salad answer real quick, if you don't mind. And this is something I think about quite a bit personally, but I think and that drives kind of some of our communication strategy, especially in the digital realm. If you take a look like from 30,000 feet up, the oppositions to the president's agenda, they only win when the American public feel like they're alone, right? When they're able to throw up barriers left and right to make it so you feel like you're the only one on this planet that thinks, feels, eats, prays, walks the way that you do, right? And I think Bitcoin exists in antithesis to that, fundamentally, right? It breaks down barriers in ways that I don't think people even quite understand yet. And so, I say all that to say, uh, this is a president who obviously, by things like opening up the doors to this White House for new media outlets, for example, who wants to break down those barriers, who wants, every forgotten man or woman in this country, for, lack of a better phrase, to realize they're not alone, that there's a president here that fights for them. And so I think you talk about the nuts and bolts and, like, rolling through governance. I think every piece of what we're doing, is kind of pushing that agenda and pushing towards governance in that way. Everything from securing the border so that you have something tangible, right? You feel safer walking your neighborhoods, from tax cuts from term one that we hope we see again here in term two. You walking away, literally, that's one of my proudest things. I just told the guy from PA this. I'm not even kidding. Last administration, we did the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and weeks later, people walked home with more money. It didn't take months or years for them to feel the impact of something that's happening in Washington, D.C. And so things that are innovative like Bitcoin, they lend to more, evoking more opportunities like that. And I don't even know if I even answered your question. I hope that was insightful for people watching, but I think it all speaks to itself, right?
It was insightful because we just spent 4 years having our own government try to put us out of business.
Right.
And now we have a government asking us, how can we help you succeed? It's a pretty stark contrast.
Customer service. It's
yeah.
the heart of all of it, right? I think it speaks for everything across the board. And we are here to serve the American people. You take a look at things like tariffs. And one of the initial criticisms was that there's all this uncertainty in the market. And I had someone call me up, a surrogate was going on TV, and he's like, "Oh man, I don't want to defend this. Makes no sense. There's all this uncertainty." And I said, "I want you to sit and think on that word for a minute, right?" It's a man who there's clips of him and Oprah in the '90s saying he's going to do this. Like, this is not uncertain in any way, shape, or form. He said this on the campaign trail ad nauseum. He was going to do it, and so it's an indictment of the political class of this country that it is uncertain to many that someone would show up and actually do what they say they're going to do. Like, how perverted is that, right? And that is not how this should be at all. And so that's a really long way of answering your question. I think, like, customer service is like a really inarticulate way of describing it, but I think it's something that everyone can understand. Like, we're here to serve you. And the president's always been about it.
Appreciate that. Want to quickly, as a last question here, maybe just touch on vibes. I keep hearing the like of Vicent and Letnick talking about how there's this great synergy, right? Everybody's working together behind
Yeah.
the scenes. And I think people feel excited about that. To touch on also something else you said, things are getting accomplished, right? President Trump made certain promises. Those promises are being fulfilled. Is that sort of that plus the idea of, yes, there's an amazing energy in this building today. There are people here, like I said, people who would not, under other administrations, wouldn't have access to the White House. It just wouldn't be a thing. I mean, we're Bitcoin Magazine. In a billion years, I never thought that writing for Bitcoin Magazine, I'd be in the White House, on the grounds of the White House, talking with people like yourself. It's an exciting thing. So I just generally want to know, is it that enthusiasm? Is it the fact that things are getting accomplished, that new things are happening, like this alternative media being here? Is that also sort of feeding upon itself? Is it fueling itself to get more accomplished?
I think, to answer your question, everyone in this building recognizes that we are at a very pivotal point in our nation's history. I think it is very frequently overlooked when you have folks who are career swamp rats, or they've worked on the Hill for 80 years or whatever it might be. The moment is lost on them. The president was here for 4 years. The moment is not lost on him. He took a bullet for our country. The moment is the gravity and the weight of the position we are in our nation's history is not lost on a single soul in this building. And I think that is what propels us forward. That's why the vibes are so good. It's, for once, there are people in this building who are excited to be a part of history and aren't dragged kicking and screaming through the next news cycle, right? Things are getting done, yes, but we understand that we're on the forefront of the next frontier of innovation in so many different ways. I mean, again, talking to someone in this other room down the street, people are excited to find fraud, waste, and abuse, man. How wild is that?
Yeah.
It's like the cabinet is competing with each other to see like how much fraud they can find.
Look how bad my agency is.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Like in previous administration, you never would have said
No,
that
of
because it would
course
have been an
not.
indictment of yourself, right?
Right.
Really, it's we're returning power back to folks, and it is exciting. The work we're doing is tangible. We're getting more done in 100 days than ever before. I mean, like I'm wired because I have a four-month-old at home. Like, we're all running on adrenaline, but ultimately it's because we all recognize that this is a truly historic time to be alive.
I think that's a great place to end it. Kaelan, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for
course,
the work
brother.
you're doing, and thank you for having us here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming. I
Yeah.
appreciate all of you.